Hello friends, neighbors, John your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome down to the Nook, and it's Sunday. And I am shooting samples. I know they look an awful lot like full-size bottles. Well, they are. But James dropped these off, and I love that he thinks of how it might look on the camera or how it might be to taste together. So I have not tried these yet. I just poured them on this short. I've got a Speyside from 2011, 13 years in first and second fill, first and refill Oloroso sherry butts. But an unknown. These are independent bottlers, Signatory vintage. I actually have liked almost every one of them I've ever had. At Imperial 100 Proof, so it's like 57. And then we're going to talk about this one, a secret from Orkney. Probably think I could guess that one. There's not that many distilleries there. This one's 14-year-olds, and it's got first fill Oloroso and bourbon hogsheads. So we've got a Speyside, we've got an Orkney. I don't know what they are. They're both released at 57.1%. I've poured them. I've let them speak for a while, and now let's just taste them. In essence, blind, but not really, because I know which one is in which here. I just don't know what they are. Pour something fun, something pretty bold, and come on back. 3, 4. Well, thanks for joining me back here in the Nook. We are going to compare two unknown but independent releases by Signatory Vintage. The first one here is the Speyside. The Speyside is, it says 13 years, first and refill Oloroso. It's natural color, non-chill filtered, and released at that Imperial 100 Proof or 57.1%. So pretty strong. They're both clearly sherried because they're both natural color. This one is darker. You can actually see it better on the bottles. If you actually look at the two, you should be able to see this one significantly darker than the other one. And even though it's younger, 13 years versus 14, it has only sherried, either refilled or first, whereas this one does have some bourbon, and that could be why that's just a little bit lighter color. Anyways, this unknown Speyside, 13 years old, and all this sherry. Let's just see what my nose gets off this. And then if you know what this is, you got to throw that down below. I haven't done research on this. I don't know what it is. Oh, this is a sherry bomb. It is dark, thick, leathered sherry notes. It's also already got, some nut, it's got a bit of it's not sweet almond. It's darker nuts than that. Like I often go to a walnut, but like rich, so pecan. But yeah, there's some nut coating in there, but we're right back into dark, leathered, dried, pithy fruits. This really is a thick, heavy sherry dram. It is, it reminds me of Tamdhu cast strength. Honestly, some of the older thick Macallans I've had. What else? Actually, it reminds me of another one that James dropped off, and I've tried it. The 15. I got to get to talking to you guys about that. When we're just this is all of the sherry in malt, right? It's not like when we talk about this. If you're new to whiskey, this is a whiskey. It smells like a whiskey. It smells, I've got some sweet vanilla. I've got some malt sugars. I've got the things that sometimes I think I forget to talk about. I talk about, the differences, the edges, the deepness. And this one, it's all about the sherry. Wow. But it's got a nice maltiness. It does. All right, I'm going to try this one. Hope you've got something rich. Could be a little sulfury, I have to say, on the nose. I am just not sensitive to it, but I got just an edge of sulfur in there as well, like a little bit of Glenfarclas. All right, let's try this one on the palate. Sláinte. The proof actually really helps this one. It gives it a lot of backbone and thickness and strength. It helps the oak speak. So I've got that nice tannins, little bit of quality, dark not char, like char's too much, certainly no peat, but that thick darkness that you get, you're not really getting from sherries, but you get from casking. It's got some of that dry book, library, tobacco, leather. Wow. This is a good one. It's a good one, James. And I have yet to be like, I mean, sometimes they don't hit, but these independent bottles, I just think they're really, they're speaking for a specific thing. So I think if they miss, it's because, my palate doesn't align with them. But I think they're obviously have their choice of what they pick out. They're not blending big house. They're not a huge volume seller. And that time, some sweetness came through, some lighter, some little bit of strawberry, little bit of berry jam, little bit of sugars, some of that barley malt that I talked about that I don't talk about enough when I'm speaking of the differences. Some nice creamy barley malt with the sweetness. Interesting. Usually this second sip takes me darker. This time, maybe it's because of where I held it, I have to say. The first time I just let it go everywhere. This time it was a little up front, and I tend to get a little more sugars when I'm just taking a smaller sip up front. But that was really lovely. But it's all about the sherry. There's definitely a little bit of dark and a little bit of sulfur in there. That's where I'm going. There is a little bit of sulfur. I'm not sensitive to it. Doesn't put me off, but it is present in this dram. And if I get it, then if you're sensitive to it, I think you're really going to notice it. Well, let's go over to this year older, 14-year Secret from Orkney. Now, there's only a couple of distilleries that I know about there, and the one that I really know about is Highland Park. So likely it's a Highland Park dram, but I don't know that. Now, what's interesting about this, it's exactly the same percentage, proof, and similar because it's got, first fill Oloroso, so does this, but it does have ex-bourbon hogsheads, and it's obviously from a different distillery. So this one, year older, some ex-bourbon. It is lighter. I've already shown you the bottle color to help understand. Let's see what it's like on the nose. Oh, and this one really, like, while there is sherry there, it hasn't gone in this direction. It is lighter fruits, sweeter, almost honeys. Now, nuts, if I'm going there, I am in sweet almonds, that marzipan kind of. And if there's a peat, it's actually really light. Yeah, okay. There is a little bit of earthy quality. It's not medicinal peat. It's not really smoky ashtray peat. It's just a little earthy, chewy. Well, and there I got a little bit of vegetable tending into iodine. But that took quite a while to get at some peat. And this is just thick resinous sherry. This has some sweeter like this. Let's try this one on the palate. Sláinte. In contrast, or because I started here, I guess that's in contrast, there is lots more peat on this. On the nose, I thought, oh, it's just a little bit of peat. Maybe they used only a portion. But in the palate, I've got all of that, salty, darker, earthy, smolder, but even dry driftwood in with the sweetness of the nose. The nose was sweeter, not as dark fruits. It was lighter. It had some of that, bourbon toffees and whatnot. Let's see if I can get at a little more of the malt differences. Sláinte. This one continues to play around in a little bit, like now it's spicier, it's pepperier, even though it's older, 14 versus 13. It's a little more bracing, a little more drying on the tongue. It's interesting. This one is bolder. It just is. Like, I know it's peat, but it is bolder. It's got all sorts of things in my mouth that really, like, it's lighting up all sorts of edges that is bracing. This one for sure, I would like to dial in with a bit of water. I didn't have that with the Speyside. With the Speyside, yeah, it had leathery, and then I finally got some sweet fruits. I didn't have any of that. I don't want to say palate attack, but something like that I definitely got off of this Orkney. Now, it's wonderful, and if you like, and I do, you want to get into a chewy, earthy, peaty, it's not bruisey peaty, it's still not iodine, but I was shocked in the palate how much that spoke. I really was. I thought the nose was just gentle, but the palate really spoke that to me. These are really nice contrast. They absolutely are a contrast. And I think they've chosen them that. They're in some kind of series that I wasn't aware of. Like this says 100 proof edition, is that 18, 15? And this is 25. So there must be a lot else out there that are in this 100 proof. What a lineup that would be to have a shelf full of these and be able to taste different distilleries. Now, I see a QR code in the back, and maybe I got to go look it up. Maybe they actually tell us what they are. And that would be really, really cool. If you know, just put it down in the comments, and then I don't even have to do the research. But either way, this was intended to be fun. Just a walkthrough of some Signatory vintage, these 100 proof releases. We've got Orkney, we've got Speyside, we've got lots of sherry on both, but boy, they expressed differently. Have you had them? Do you like them? Throw it down in the comments. I just love the chatter.